And the honourable member for Yellowhead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On March 21st, I questioned this government about the punitive carbon tax burden on Alberta families. According to the independent parliamentary budget officer, the average family in Alberta will be hit with $2,943 in carbon taxes this year. In a completely out-of-touch response, the member from Edmonton Centre claimed this wasn't a problem because these families will receive $2,160 in rebates with the rural top-up. Because I know these Liberals struggle with it, let's do the math together. $2,943 minus $2,160 leaves families $783 out of pocket. That's nearly $800 that hardworking Albertans will pay directly from their pockets thanks to this government's policy. The situation is even worse for those not qualifying for the rural top-up, as they face a staggering $1,043 in carbon taxes not covered by any rebate. The evidence is clear. The average family in Alberta pays more than they get back, and it's not debatable. The PBO has also dismantled the Liberals' claim that 8 out of 10 Canadians come out ahead with these rebates. In truth, the PBO states that 60% are actually worse off under this tax scheme. Furthermore, constituents are sending me their heating bills, outraged to find that the carbon tax often exceeds the cost of the gas itself. I'd be happy to send these bills to the minister so he can explain them to why everything costs more. This isn't just an abstract statistic. It's a harsh reality eating into household budgets. These are budgets already suffering because of the inflation caused by this Liberal government. Additionally, the impact on our communities is devastating. Data from food banks across Yellowhead, like in Edson, show usage has increased by nearly 300%. This tax isn't just a line item on a bill. It's a factor driving more of our neighbors towards food insecurity. And let's talk about the supposed environmental benefits. This tax has done nothing to reduce emissions or address climate change. The government boasts about reduced emissions since the tax was implemented in 2019, conveniently leaving out that a global pandemic significantly cut emissions by reducing travel and economic activity. With the end of the pandemic, emissions in Canada have surged once again. What a surprise. And let's not forget, Canada makes up less than 2% of global emissions, meaning if we went net zero tomorrow, countries like China, which doesn't have a carbon tax, would offset our efforts within a year. The carbon tax forces Canadians to pay up without offering any real alternatives. As the minister from Edmonton should know, Albertans need natural gas to heat their homes, and gas-powered cars do not get to work, especially when EV failed our cold climate. But Conservatives have a common sense plan. We will incentivize innovation across industries to develop green technologies that not only lower emissions in Canada, but can be marketed globally to tackle worldwide emission challenges. We will axe the carbon tax and bring home affordability for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Let me remind my colleague that the numbers are very clear. Carbon pricing isn't what is causing increases in grocery prices. Economists estimate that as of December, the carbon price contributed less than half a percentage point to grocery price increases. However, I think we can all agree that many Canadians are suffering from the cost of living crisis. That's why we're addressing it with our affordability plan and many of the new actions you'll hear more in tomorrow's budget. But it is categorically false to claim that carbon pricing is causing major increases to grocery prices. Let me remind my colleague of a few other facts. Households in Alberta got their Canada carbon rebate today. A family of 4 receives $450 today and $1,800 over the course of this year, with rural households getting a 20% top-up if the Conservatives support that, which it seems they won't. 8 out of 10 households get more money back than what they pay on average, which is exactly what it says in the Parliamentary Budget Officer's report. And lower-income households benefit even more. And I'm not sure where the 3,000 number comes from that my colleague is citing, but the Parliamentary Budget Officer's March 2023 report indicates that for 2024 to 2025, the net average cost per household after the Canada Carbon rebate is actually $558 in savings, not costs. My colleagues in the House should know that when a policy does not generate any revenue for the government and the money is given back to Canadians, we're talking about a regulatory charge that is essential to reduce pollution and not a tax. Mr. Speaker, making it free to pollute will not save Canadians money. It will cost them more in the long run while endangering Canadians and jeopardizing the natural environment we all depend on. We know that there are better ways to make life more affordable for Canadians without destroying the environment and incurring more devastating costs further down the road. Putting a price on carbon pollution reduces emissions, yes, but it also encourages innovation, and this is what we need to make significant strides in fighting climate change. It encourages reductions across the economy while giving households and businesses the flexibility to decide when and how to make those changes. It creates incentives for Canadian businesses to develop and adopt new low-carbon products, processes, and services. And when it is done right, as we are doing here in Canada, it is both effective and affordable for consumers. That's because the bulk of the proceeds from the price on carbon pollution goes straight back into the pockets of Canadians in provinces where the fuel charge applies. Our actions today are for your tomorrow. The Government of Canada plans are making a difference. We have successfully bent the curve on emissions, and we fully are committed to reaching our 2030 emissions reduction goals for a secure and prosperous future for all Canadians. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Yellowhead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'll talk slowly so the member might understand. According to the independent Parliamentary Budget Officer, the average family will be hit with $2,943 in carbon taxes this year. It's coming from the Parliamentary Budget Officer, just like their 8 out of 10 statistics come from. Yes, the Parliamentary Budget Officer did state that, but it only refers to just the fuel charges. Once you include everything else that the carbon tax is charged on, such as groceries, then over 60% of Canadians are worse off than that. If you would only read the entire report, not just the sections the Liberals want to promote, then we would actually get the truth out of them for a change.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, respectfully, the member opposite obviously hasn't read the PBO's report because it doesn't say what he's claiming it says. And putting a price on carbon pollution has been a pillar of our climate policy since 2019. And experts around the world, including over 300 economists in an open letter, say it is the cheapest and most effective tool to fight climate change. We know now that based on the Canadian Climate Institute's recent report, that it will account for 1/3 of Canada's greenhouse gas emission reduction. So that's pretty significant. But make no mistake, failing to address climate change will make things even more expensive for Canadians. The cost of inaction is stark. If we ignore climate change by 2025, we could see a $25 billion annual slowdown in our economic growth. And the Canadian Climate Institute estimates that that'll be 50% of GDP growth. So are the Conservatives really saying they want to jeopardize the future prosperity of Canada for ideological reasons?